Hey everybody, it's me, your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is the latest installment in my horror movie Superlatives series that I'm collaborating with my good friend Carlin. And we're about to wrap up the 70s when we make our picks for the entire decade. But first, we need to discuss this week, which is 1979. If you haven't already, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button on both of our channels. He puts out 3 to 4 movie reviews every week. I have this series and my Nail in the Coffin series, which is a ton of fun because I'm definitely staying in Haddonfield, for the next couple of weeks. So, after you watch this video, as a reminder, please go to Carlin's channel, link in the description. Watch his video with the same title as this one, and then go to the community tab on his page. And please vote for who you thought had the better picks, whether they closely resembled yours or who had the better justifications. Doesn't matter. It's all in good and fun. Just please watch both videos first and then vote. We really appreciate it, so thank you. So, that's about it. Let's get down to business and pick out some horror movie superlatives for 1979. My selection for the most amazing horror movie goes to one of the greatest horror films ever made, Alien. I'll be pretty shocked if Carlin doesn't pick this movie. But Alien is great. Written by Dan O'Bannon, directed by Ridley Scott. I love the tagline for this movie: "In space, no one can hear you scream." It's one of my favorite taglines for a movie because it sets the tone for what you're about to watch. This movie has an incredible cast: Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, Ian Holm. All the characters on that ship are specific and unique, and they all have depth to the characters. And I really love that about this film. There's no, cardboard cutout characters. They're all unique in their own ways. This movie also has one of the greatest jump scares in the history of horror, the chestburster scene. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that was their actual reaction. They didn't know what they were going to see during the chestburster. So that shock was actually legitimate, and I love that about the film. The alien looks great in this movie. I love the set design, the look of the ship that they're on. It fits the atmosphere so well. You have this claustrophobic. It's dark and everything. It just sets the tone for this movie because they're being stalked by this alien, which looks terrifying. It's one of my favorite alien creatures ever. I love the story. There's nothing really I don't like about this movie. It's one of those close to perfect movies as you can get, because I don't know if a perfect movie exists, but Alien pretty much has to be in contention for one of the, close to get you for a perfect movie. And, I believe Jaws is in that category as well, but Alien is excellent. It's one of my favorite movies ever. The sequel is one of the greatest sequels ever made, but Alien is by far the most amazing horror movie to come out in 1979. My So Bad It's Good selection goes to Prophecy. And it's not the Christopher Walken movie. I first heard about Prophecy that came out in 1979 when I was watching Good Bad Flicks. The movie just looked wild and I had to check it out. It's about a giant mutated bear. The movie's about a dispute between Native Americans and a logging company. So the doctor is investigating these claims and he starts to find mutated wildlife. And it gave credence to the Native American claims that the logging company is dumping poison into the river. And the further the doctor investigates, he captures a mutated bear cub for testing, which was a big mistake because there's a giant mutated bear mama that does want her cub back. There is a scene in this movie that, whether or not it was made to be funny, is another discussion, but it is hilarious, and it's one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie. It is my favorite scene, actually, in this entire movie. The effects in this movie are pretty wild. It's a fun creature feature. The mutated bear looks pretty insane. Now, some of their performances are a little wooden, and the pacing is not great in this film. You don't get too many great performances in it. I mean, there's a lot of padding, which does slow the movie down. And I think they showed too much of the bear too soon. It might have been better if they went the Jaws approach, but it's still totally worth a watch. If you like creature features, this film is up your alley, and it surely is so bad it's good. For my most WTF selection, now if Carlin didn't pick Alien for his most amazing, I'm pretty confident it's going to be this movie because it is an amazing movie, Phantasm. This is a WTF movie in the best way possible because there's so much to the movie. In the beginning, you got this scene in the graveyard when the first character dies. It made me go, like, WTF, when I watch it for the first time. The kid in the movie cuts off the tall man's fingers and they turn into a giant fly creature that they killed down a garbage disposal. You have the character Reggie, which is the coolest ice cream man ever. And this movie has one of my favorite scores in horror. One of my favorite death metal bands, Entombed, even sampled it for their song, which is fantastic. I feel as the story unfolds, you keep asking yourself in this movie, WTF? Like, where is this movie going? There's a lot of weird stuff in this movie. You got, like, for example, the old fortune telling lady when the kid puts his hand in the box. You have flying silver balls, the tall man, the little guys that the tall man makes from regular people. WTF could be a good thing, and that's the case with Phantasm. It's an original story, and the film keeps you guessing, yet it never loses you with the insanity of this movie. It doesn't really confuse you or lose you that you get disinterested. It keeps you wanting more, like, WTF am I seeing? What WTF is gonna come next? And I feel that's pretty accurate with Phantasm, which is why I put it in my most WTF category. And my best score selection, Lucio Fulci's Zombie. As a list, 79 was a stacked year. A lot of these movies could have been for most amazing as well, but I put Zombie in best score. Now, Dawn of the Dead was released as Zombie in Italy, so this movie is known as Zombie 2 and Zombie Flesh Eaters. One of Fulci's best films, and I love everything about this movie, and I think this is hands down the best gore for 1979. The zombies look like they've been baked in the sun, which is pretty unique. They're dirty, like they've been there a long time. And also in this movie, you have a zombie fighting a shark. One of the best things I've ever seen, ever. You have a zombie fighting a real shark. You also have one of the worst slash best eyeball ripping scenes in cinema history. It looks so real. If you have a problem with things poking you in the eye, you will not like that scene. The way they did it is so fantastic. Zombies look great. That eyeball scene is fantastic. Zombies fighting sharks. Zombie is a great, great movie. And even without those scenes that I mentioned, there's still tons of great gore in this movie. It's just so much to take in. One of my favorite zombie movies. Easy selection from my best gore category. For my most unique selection, I went with David Cronenberg's The Brood. The story, plot, and feel of this movie is really unique to me because David Cronenberg doesn't make ordinary movies. And The Brood was also written by David Cronenberg after his bitter divorce, and I think to me that makes this movie unique. It has a theme about a broken relationship between a husband and a wife who share a child. If you haven't seen this movie, it's about a man and his mentally ill ex-wife who try some unconventional therapy, and this is surrounded by, some unsolved murders. This is one of those movies that the less you know going in, the better the experience can be. The tone of this movie is not necessarily scary, but it does give you an eerie feeling throughout it. Something just doesn't feel right. When you're experiencing this movie, you just can't put your finger on it. And I think that's pretty common with some of David Cronenberg's movies. They're really, I don't want to say they're deep, but they have some real depth to them, I guess. The Brood is no different compared to other David Cronenberg movies because all of his movies really are unique. And this is one of those movies that requires a few viewings so you can pick up on things you missed the first time. I mean, you're not going to miss these things that you're going to miss, a plot hole or something, but, little things in the background and stuff like that and comments, it adds to the experience if you watch this movie more than once, so you pick up on additional things. So, not the scariest movie ever made, but because of what David Cronenberg was experiencing when he wrote this movie, it had a unique feel to it, and I think it came across really well. And for my most overrated selection, I'm not sure if this one will be controversial, but I picked the Amityville Horror. It's not a bad movie, but I do feel it's a bit overrated, and it could be because of my bias towards the Warrens and the fact that they're just, con artists. The movie is a typical haunted house story. It was based off a book, which is a true story, which is always tricky to make a movie based off a book. It can work, and it can work well, like with Jaws, but not this case. The Amityville Horror really didn't have great pacing. I was bored between the scary parts. I mean, it's not all bad. James Brolin is pretty good in it. I did feel that Margot Kidder was wasted. She was just there, kind of. The demon pig in the window was just flat out stupid at the end. I mean, the blood dripping around the house was cool, but that's become almost cliche now. It's always been parodied so many times. they're just better movies that came out that year based on all the ones I watched, and I actually prefer the sequel to this movie. So yeah, we can only pick movies that we've seen, and I didn't see that many movies for 1979, but I do feel comfortable saying that the Amityville Horror is a bit overrated. And finally, my selection for most underrated movie goes to Tourist Trap. I love this movie. I watched it a few years ago on Shudder, and I never really heard about it before. And I remember watching it thinking I thought it was a different movie when I first turned it on, but I just stuck it out and I really, really enjoyed it. If you've never heard of it before, it's about a group of friends who car breaks down. They find a nice old man and his museum attraction, but things may not be what they seem. The opening scene in this movie is really kind of is what hooked me in. I wanted to see what else was going to happen. Chuck Connors is so good in this movie. He's charming and sinister at the very same time. The movie unravels so much information as to who Chuck Connors' character Slauson really is, and it keeps you guessing as to what the hell is going on or what's going to happen next. And like I said, it could confuse people and make them lose interest, but it doesn't happen here. It keeps you interested in the movie, and you really don't want to miss anything, so it keeps you really, intrigued into what's going to happen next. And this is another movie that requires multiple viewings. The score is an excellent, excellent companion to this film, especially during this scene in the basement involving some plaster of Paris and a young woman. It's such an intense scene, and the score in the background really, really adds to it. You got violins and cellos in the score that really bring you in and make you feel uneasy. Like I said, I only first heard about this movie a few years ago, and I was missing out on an excellent movie. It's a great movie that keeps you guessing. The characters are fun. The main character, Slauson, played by Chuck Connors, is so sinister and creepy. Such a well-made movie that I think it should be talked about more because it really is a great horror film, which is why I picked it for my most amazing selection of 1979. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my selections. Here's a quick summary. Most amazing, Alien, So Bad It's Good, a fun movie. Prophecy, WTF movie, you can't go wrong with Phantasm. Best score, Zombie. You got a zombie fighting a shark and the eye-ripping scene. The zombies look great. Yeah, easy for my best score. Most unique, David Cronenberg's The Brood. Most overrated, The Amityville Horror. And I just finished talking about the most underrated horror movie of 1979, a favorite movie of mine, Tourist Trap. Thanks again for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. Now, please go to Carl's channel, link in the description. Watch his video with the same name, and then please go to the community tab on his page and vote for who you thought had the better selections. We both really appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, if you're still watching, I'd love if you could hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out a video. I put my Nails on the Coffin series out every Friday, and I'm in Haddonfield at least until October. And yeah, I'm getting to the dicier movies, so you definitely want to check those out. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, everybody. Stay safe. Stay happy. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. And remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.